It got so quiet. It got so quiet.
I
So I'm like,
I like
it
it.
must have been.
That's pretty dope, though. That 3D shit. That's cool.
Yeah, I can't personally do that. So if I saw that shit on the street, I would freak the fuck out. I can't do that.
Dope as fuck. Yo.
I cannot do that.
That's what I kept looking at it. I was like, wow, that's really interesting. Like
that's cool looking. Yeah. OLED. Ooh, Jesus.
Yeah, but
Didge per episode for Stranger Things. Jesus.
$30 million per episode. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Look, that's why Netflix is trying to crack down on account sharing.
Oh, for sure.
They're not getting enough money back from spending $50 million an episode. Meanwhile, Apple is like $50 million an episode. That's what we pay one actor. Fucking broke bitches. They're like, you fucking broke bums. We pay just Jason Sudeikis that. Welcome everybody to an all new episode of MCR, the show where we break down the weekly Disney Plus shows, mainly Marvel, hence the MCR.
Marvel cinematic review.
That's
look,
fair.
Somebody somewhere is like, most cinematic reviews? No, Marvel cinematic reviews. So there you go for that one person out there who asked that. But we will be breaking down episode 5 of Moon Knight. I call this episode Trauma. They call it Asylum. I choose to just call it Trauma. But I did have to bring out my favorite edit of Moon Knight for this episode, as you can see.
Oh, that one's great. I saw that earlier.
It's funny, yeah.
I love that. Anyone who saw Real Husbands of Hollywood knows exactly where that comes from.
Yes.
So I fucking love that. As soon as I saw it, I said, yes, that's what I'm using tonight. But first I want to introduce everybody before we go into it, starting off with Didge. What's up, Didge?
What's up? Good day. Bucks are up 20 last I looked, so I'm happy right now. Good episode today for me too. So this is fun.
What's so funny about you saying them being up by 20 is that Jeff Van Gundy says almost every game that he wants the NBA to implement a catch-up shot. So like you shoot from half court, and if you make it, if you're down by like 30, you automatically get caught up. And every time I hear him say that, I'm like, that's so stupid. But then I watch games like this and I'm like, well, maybe. Maybe. And like all it does is just tie you up. I'm like, maybe I don't hate it as much.
Right.
But he be having some wild ass takes. That guy is fucking hilarious. But next up, somebody that no one can ever say was a passenger because he drives the bus. Fuck you, Kevin Durant. That's Joel. What's up, Joel?
What's up, fellas? How you doing?
I am good and glad that the world created Charles Barkley. That's how I feel.
that's a fair statement.
God blessed us with that one. But last but definitely not least, Trevon. What's up, Trevon?
Hi, everyone. Stay the show. All right, so let's keep going. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
It's not enough people in here yet to do that.
My name is Trevon, and I am a hater.
There's not enough people. He doesn't have somebody he can just quickly run to next.
That is true. I don't. So I'm gonna go ahead and boomerang it right back to you, Trevon. What were your thoughts on episode 5 of Moon Knight, Asylum?
The episode should be called Stephen and Mark. Not Moon Knight. Let's start there. Let's see. I understand us getting backstory. Yes, this is very similar to WandaVision on where they did the. I don't know. I feel like it was just done better. I don't know. It was done better or something. I don't know.
To be fair, Trevon, let's not lie here. There is a small bit of favoritism, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, WandaVision was incredibly story driven, right? Mm-hmm. But you like Wanda. You like Wanda. So you were able to accept it more from that. But because and I want to make this clear, it's not that you don't like Moon Knight, you're just not aware of the backstory of the character.
Not connected to him.
Right. So it's you're more kind of like apprehensive on accepting certain things because you're like, well, I don't know you, so you don't get the leeway of just doing that.
You don't get to do that.
You don't get to fucking do that.
That is correct.
So no, and the only reason I'm saying this because I don't want you to think like I'm trying to be funny here. Only reason I'm saying this is I want to get rid of the narrative of you're just hating on the show. You're not hating on the show, but it is fair we put context to it. To where it is very much, it's because you don't know anything about the character.
Nothing about this character from the start of the show.
Right.
Only thing I've been learning is from what you guys have said on here. Honestly, I don't know. I just want it to be. I want to see Moon Knight. This is 2 episodes where we have not gotten him. Like we didn't even get Layla this episode. Like at least something. Like it just. I was like just him, just them like flailing around trying to figure it out. Like the scale or whatever. Like I get it. Like I felt like I was tricked a few times throughout this episode. Like when they were like, oh, okay, we got the 2 hearts or whatever for the scale, right? I was okay, they got the 2 hearts. I've heard about this Jake guy. Are they gonna go get his 3rd heart and put it on the scale? Like, are we gonna finally see him? Finally, something? No, okay. And then so I'll tell you a few things. So the one part where they were looking through one of the doors and you saw one of them on the curb smoking a cigarette or whatever. And Steve was like, is that you? Whatever. And I was like, no, I don't know what that is. I was like, oh, is that Jake? That's all I kept thinking about. I was like, was that Jake? Is that him finally? We're going to see him? No, it's just Mark.
I'm pretty sure we saw Jake in the beginning of the episode.
I was wondering about that.
I'm pretty sure it was Jake because it didn't sound like Mark. He didn't act like Mark. He was very violent. He was out to stab the man.
Look, we also did see a fucking cab drive right by him, and that wasn't a coincidence.
That's true.
In an episode where a lot of people were assuming we would get the introduction of Jake, a cab just so happens to drive by.
I'm pretty sure.
I think it was a nod. It probably was a nod. No, I'm sorry. Continue, Trevon.
No, you're fine. No, I mean, if it is him, it's a lot that got shoved into this final episode. That's all I'm saying. Like, if they finally do get him, like, okay, like we gotta break Conchu out. Gotta get the powers back. We gotta see Jay. We gotta see Bushman. Like, there's a lot going on this last episode. We gotta stop whatever Harrow's doing. There's a lot going on. They're stuffing that all in the last episode.
Well, like, I mean, I want to say this because I know a lot of people thought that was where Loki was headed. That was where WandaVision was headed. And they both did it very seamlessly, right? So essentially what we have to wrap our heads around is the idea of WandaVision left a lot, right, to be answered later. Loki left a lot to be answered later. Moon Knight is such a complex character. There are some essences of things we're assuming we'll get that maybe to them they're like, we'll answer that later. Exactly. So I'm saying again, like what do I always say, Trevon?
They don't. I just don't feel like they get that luxury. They don't.
That no. Look, like what did I
just
tell
don't get that.
What did I tell you?
He's not built into other stuff. Like it's just like
we don't know that. We don't know that.
We don't know that. I need to know. Like I need to know. Like when he's coming again.
I won't argue that. But what I'm trying to say is, it's very likely.
Know where Wanda will be at.
Because this character is very complex. Because this character is very complex, there is a lot of times where things don't get answered from Moon Knight's point of view. So like Bushman, that's something I believe we just won't see. It was mentioned, so we know it exists, right? I don't think we'll see it in this next episode. So you can check that off, right? Then you go, we have no confirmation that we will get Jake, right? We all assume, right? We assume there. If you go by set videos,
the little tease, and they keep teasing about this.
He's definitely the Mephisto of this series.
But no,
don't say that.
He's definitely the Mephisto of this series.
There is a set photo. There is a set photo that was released. Not set photo. I'm sorry. There's a set video that was released last year. And it was essentially Moon Knight just running on the street, but the costume looks drastically different than the one he's currently wearing. Right. So I'm like, that could be a new suit in Jake's suit. Right. So I'm like, we could get that. But what I'm trying to say is that doesn't have to be like, oh, they're rushing it. Right. Because we see Arthur has already started. Right. So we don't have to go like, all right, so now Arthur's going to start once he's already started. We don't know where Layla's at. Maybe Layla was going to go try to find Khonshu. So I'm like, again, I always say, let's see the full story first. And then if it's rushed, you'll hear not one word out of me. But because we don't know and we're assuming they have to answer everything now, there is a show that coming out later this year called Werewolf by Night. It is a possibility Moon Knight shows up in that. It is a possibility something gets answered there. So I'm like, it's not as simple as if it doesn't get answered here, what was the point? You know what I'm saying? Because Blade is coming.
I'm pretty sure
many other things coming.
The end of the next episode will say Moon Knight will return.
Right. Right.
I'm like, is he?
Yeah.
There's gonna be Steven and Mark walking around. Some more.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say to you, Trevon. That's Moon Knight though. So like when you read the comics, it's a lot of times where he's Mr. Knight, but there is no mask. He doesn't have the mask on.
I would be fine with that. That's fine.
Then can I ask you what's
he's fighting. He got doing something. Like this talking. I'm tired of. I don't know. I'm just sick of the talking. I don't know. I need some action. I don't know.
Okay. Look,
two episodes. I told you. Episode of Steven running and an episode of them talking like about trauma the whole episode. I just need something else. I don't know. That's just how I feel about it.
Shout out to Sith Morrison and Lil Woofy. Sith Morrison says this was honestly the best episode of the season so far for me, though I definitely need a lot of action in the finale. Well, that's the thing though. There hasn't been an MCU show that has not delivered that for a final episode, right? If you take Loki out, that was probably the only one that didn't have a massive big fight for the last episode. That came the episode before, right? So I'm like, essentially, we've always gotten that, right? I mean, shit, we were saying for the longest, like, they're never gonna pull off Loki's classic comic book accurate suit. We got that shit, and it came later on, and it wasn't even from the Loki we know. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they do really weird, intricate, interesting things. And they take liberties. And so far, to some people, it's worked. I understand it for others, it didn't. But I'm saying they've been pretty consistent, right? It's build up, it's story, it's build up, then boom, you get it. I would say Captain America, Captain America now, but Falcon and the Winter Soldier, its biggest action piece was its final episode. Right?
Well, there's a lot of action that
was a lot of
action. No.
And a lot more brutal than this.
No. You're mishearing me. I'm not saying it was the only action. I said its biggest action sequence was from its final episode. I'm not saying that was the only action we got. It was chock full of it, but it's biggest.
I don't know. That plane sequence in the first episode was fucking great.
And then I would also think
again, I didn't say best. I said just
that's pretty big. It was a whole sky scene, the whole thing.
And then, we even got that in the finale when he got the suit.
Episode 4 wasn't that the one with the Dora Milaje? That episode was pretty much almost entirely
fire.
action.
I don't know.
Yeah. Again, no arguments here. Wasn't saying that there wasn't any action. Just definitely visually, its biggest was from that finale, because you had literally like 3 different fights going on. You had Bucky fighting people, you had Power Broker fighting people, you had Cap fighting people. Then you got to see the full suit, the shield, the wings, literally everything. Pulling a truck. You even got fucking U.S. agent fighting people. So I'm like, it was definitely their biggest. Like I believe Wanda's biggest was their finale. Moon Knight's biggest will be their finale. So I'm just saying it seems to be just formulaic is all I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, Loki to me was a lot of story, right? It was a lot of story just sprinkled in with action. It had big visual pieces to where you're like, oh shit, that looks great. I
had problems with that season 2, so I'm very consistent.
No. That wasn't a shot at you, Trevon. I was just saying it seems very formulaic for some of these shows that they do want to go story driven and then build up with sprinkles of action in between, and then the big build up for the finale where they just kind of.
But it also depends on the show, because look, like shows like Falcon Winter Soldier and Hawkeye had a lot of action set pieces
100%.
As compared to like Loki and Moon Knight. You know what I mean? Where they were more specifically sprinkled in.
But what's the commonality there? You're introducing new story points, right? So you need to be story driven, right? Yeah. It's why WandaVision was story driven. And that's why so many people for like the first 3-4 weeks were like, what the fuck am I watching? What is this story? What is this? And it's like, well, they're trying to tell you, let them finish. And then if you don't understand, we'll fill in the blanks. Yeah. But if you constantly question it, you're not opening yourself up. What'd you say?
I said I'll skip episode 3. I'll skip episode 3.
Like when it happened, or like when you go back?
If I ever watch it again.
Okay. Skip to episode 3. I'm like,
I'm not watching it.
Okay. So like I said, it just seems formulaic. That's all I'm saying. Whether you like it or not, that I'm not here to argue that. I'm just saying it's very formulaic. And it seems like what we can expect from Miss Marvel, what we can expect for Echo, what we can expect going forward is that it will be a heavy diet of action and story. But sometimes episodes might just be for story. They might not want to just throw all the visuals. They might just want to tell a good story. But like I told you before, Trevon, I have no arguments. I understand where you're coming from. This is my realm. I love this. I love where you're digging deep into the mind. It's why, Jayla, when me and you talk, remember what I told you my favorite Halloween movie was? It wasn't the movie where it's just pure killing, right? Pure killing. The story is kind of important. My favorite is where the story is important and the killing is kind of like, you could have done better with that. Because I like to dig deeper into the minds. Like, tell me what really makes you tick. And this episode gave us all of that shit. So again, not saying it's the best or the greatest, but I just love story-driven shit. Didge, I'll go to... What'd you say, Joel?
And this is some good shit.
What's that?
Story. The story of Moon Knight has been good shit.
Right. Yeah. 100%. Right. That team is, look, I need that team to do more shit. I need Kevin to go, look, hey, we might make y'all.
No.
Trevon, your issue
do not
is
do
with
this again.
character.
Do not do this to me again. No.
His issue is with the amount of actions that's being used.
What I'm trying to say, your issue is the character, not necessarily the writing of it. They're trying to set the stage for this character.
They're writing no action, so no. Don't.
But no. It's an origin, Trevon. That's really how origins. Go back and rewatch Iron Man 1 and tell me that was nothing. Origin.
Too much origin for 6 episodes.
Go back and watch the first Iron Man movie and tell me that it had bigger action anywhere else in that movie besides just the end.
I mean,
what is that?
That team is already working on other shit, so no worries.
I'm just saying, like, people love that movie, and that was story driven. All right, let's see. If I were rating this episode out of 10, I give it a solid 9.5 out of 10. I love seeing the backstory of Mark. Yeah. Mr. E says, this episode is 10 out of 10. It's an emotional roller coaster. I do have a question. I watched Comics Explained video early, and he theorized Jake killed Mark's mom and made it look like an accident. What are your thoughts on it? I don't know if we needed to go that dark.
That's very dark for this.
That's super.
They're not doing that. It's too,
I think my problem with that is Mark has always made himself into a killer. So if Jake is willing to just kill family, it's like, well, you introduced Steven first? Why wouldn't you go the more extremely violent one first? I don't know. Maybe just make Mark more timid and make Jake more dominant.
But Mark is timid. Mark is timid. He's in the middle. Like he's not. He's not a killer.
Time out.
He's not like a.
No.
He doesn't.
He'll do what he has to do.
Hold on.
But he's not like.
The difference is, Trevon, he is a killer. He just does not want to continue to be a killer. But he's very much at his core a killer. He just doesn't want to do it anymore. You just saw them walk into a room of all his dead bodies. The man is a killer. He is a killer. No matter why he did it, the man is a killer.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Because he did it for Khonshu.
Listen to what I'm saying.
Before
it does not matter.
But he said the only reason it became Khonshu because he was like bloody. We crawled to him. He said, "Do you want to live?" He basically had to do what he says. So he's like, "Yes,
he was a mercenary.
I want to live."
Yes.
Well, yeah.
The term mercenary means killer. He definitely killed people before.
Though.
No, but he was a mercenary.
No, he was a mercenary before
Khonshu.
That's not what I got from here.
That's what he said.
Yeah, that's
Hold on, time out. Hold on, Trevon. He literally said
the story wasn't good enough for me to understand.
Hold on. He literally said you missed it because you missed it because you were looking for flying kicks. He literally said, I was a mercenary with my team we went out to go. He said they were looking for artifacts, and that's when Bushman turned on him. But they were there as mercenaries to carry out a job. He was killing people well before Khonshu came around. The reason, and here's how you know this, Trevon. Think about it. Why would Khonshu go to him? He went to him because he's like, you already killed. So I know you'll take this deal to stay alive and do what you do.
He was manipulated because it was dying.
No, if you're Khonshu, you're already thinking to yourself, you're willing to kill.
I think he even said that. I think he even talked about how. Yeah, I think he even talked about how you already kill. Now you will continue it basically though for good.
Right.
No, that's fine. Okay. It's okay. That's fine. It really change.
It just meant because he didn't get to see him kill.
It still don't change the show for me. So
that's what I mean.
That wasn't what we were trying to do. We were just trying to establish that Mark was definitely a killer. That
trying to get the story correct. That's all.
That's all we're trying to do. To be honest, when people ask for action and they got it, they complain when the backstory is involved. Look, Lil Wolfie, there are some people that just want action. I don't have any arguments to that.
It depends on the show or movie for me.
No, that's fair. But then I always say, well, then you can't go. I don't know enough about this character. Well, they sacrifice all that to give you the hi-yas and the slaps and the punches. They sacrifice the story to give you the action. It's rare where you can get a successful blend. That's a great story, great action. It's why when you do get it, you got to appreciate it because we do sometimes get some real stupid ass stories for the sake of some good action. And it's like, dog, you can do both. You know, they can live with each other. Yeah. So, I mean, look, like I said, Trevon wants action. I don't disagree. I
wanted balance. No I feel like I got more talking than any action in the show. Like
no arguments here. Like. You could make a case though that not episode is it episode 3? Where was the episode where
he was getting ready to kill or fight or whatever, and then Steven's like, "Oh, hey, stop!" I'm like, what?
No. I'm talking about when we saw Moon Knight jump off the top of that thing.
Episode 2.
Episode 2, right? Mm-hmm. Episode 2, you could make a case was way more action than it was story. Right? You got all that action. The story was spliced in there, and then 3 was definitely a balance. 4. Story, 5 story, and then 6 will be the big cap off. But like I said, I from my personal background, I love that this show wasn't afraid to go where they went. I have a lot of similarities to what Mark's background was, so I appreciated fully going there with mental health, with crazy childhoods and stuff like that. So I appreciated them going there because look. The MCU should not be everybody had a mom, had a dad. Maybe there was an accident, but they love mom and dad. Like, no, there's some really fucked up stories that exist out there in the world. You got to touch on it.
I wasn't trying to say it. I wasn't trying to dismiss all that stuff.
No. I'm not saying this to call you out. I'm saying this to say what I liked about it. This isn't to call you out. So to me, I'm glad that they did that because it's necessary to start showing like, shit's just really fucking rough out there in the real world. You know what I'm saying? It's not that easy out there for a lot of these characters. So I fully appreciated that. But like I said, Trevon, I don't disagree with what you said. I'm just saying it didn't bother me as much because I live for just really good fucking stories. But as we welcome in Jayla and Blake, how you doing, Jayla and Blake?
Doing pretty good. It was
good to have you guys here. And I do want to give another shout out. Yesterday was Blake's birthday.
Oh yeah,
happy belated again,
oh my
Blake.
Gosh, happy birthday, Blake!
Thank you.
Make sure we give you another shout out. But I want to go to Didge. Didge, what were your thoughts on episode 5?
I enjoyed it. I do still think that ending from episode 4 I would have rather had at the beginning here. So I did want to just preface and say that I think that it would have only sort of helped this because then you're going to always have that point where something in the episode happens and you have like a jump cut. And I think having, them see the hippo goddess, I forgot her name, and then jumping to something else would have worked. Bless you.
Bless you.
Bless you.
But I like this episode more than I thought I would, just because it sort of answered some of the questions that I had for Moon Knight as a character. Like
Yes.
somebody I didn't read anything about him. So really understanding their spin on why he has the multiple personalities and them not really doing a cop-out reason for it was really good to see. It is something I don't think that we've seen in the MCU yet. So I like that a lot. I am interested though to see where they're going to go with this finale. I do think there are a lot of loose ends. But one thing I know, and I was talking to my brother about it, he loves to stress that we got to always remember that these shows don't tie up every loose end. So I need to go into it with that expectation that I'm going to have questions after.
Yes.
But if I'm rating it, I'd give it a solid 8 or 9 out of 10.
Okay. That's fair. I can accept that. But yeah, Marvel, I mean, look, we're in a phase where Marvel very much is like, hey, there are major things that I will just kick down the road, right? And it'll be a massive payoff, right?
It feels like they're experimental now.
Right.
Like
so
they're like, hey, we can just throw some shit and see how it's gonna work.
They have the luxury now.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at WandaVision. WandaVision literally kicked the ball to Spider-Man. Spider-Man then said, I got you, kicked the ball. Now we're in Doctor Strange 2, right? And I guarantee you all the questions we had in WandaVision will be answered there. But guess what's the fun part? They'll only create more fucking questions going forward. So that's just the formula that they're in right now. They want to create questions, not answer them. And that's why I said, I have to believe that Kevin Feige, when they planned this out and they said 6 episodes, I have to believe he said, all right, let's structure this to where it makes sense, it's fluid, and we don't feel as though we're rushing ourselves. Because I feel as though none of these shows have rushed themselves for their finales. You know what I'm saying? It's been a concisive, this is the end, right? Here's the answer to your question from episode 1, but now here's another question you have to wait to see answered down the line, right? So like for Loki show, we got all our answers for Loki, but guess what? Now our question is Kang, and that can has been kicked down the road. So any questions you had about Loki, why he's there, what's going on, they answered all that. Then the new question is, well, who the fuck is Kang? Where the fuck is Kang? Why the fuck is Kang? I know somewhere Drax is like, yes, spit that shit. So, so that's just the formula it seems that they have. But Joel, I want to pass it to you. What were your thoughts on episode 5?
I think it was my favorite episode of the season, honestly. Like, as I sat there, I'm like, wow, and look, I complained I didn't complain, but when you asked me what I was looking forward to seeing in this episode, the first thing I said was Moon Knight. I wanted to see Moon Knight in Moon Knight. But this episode was so informative. Like I got a lot of answers that I appreciated in this episode. Like we got to see his family, like we got to see his the creation of Steven and why his name's Steven. We got this, like what Jayla said earlier, that might be Jake. I'm like, it might be, because it did seem very different in that one scene when he grabbed the fucking pyramid, right?
Right.
Now I feel like going back and watching that, like it was different. Right. I do like the callbacks to certain scenes, like you said, the broken nose, the bandage on his nose, and then later on, it's not there. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, so he's like tripping like balls the whole time. I love the dynamic between him and Steven the whole episode, even though it's the same guy. They are very different people, and it's just like I love the dynamic between the two of them. The fucking hippo, Tara, right? Whatever her name is, she was hysterical. I thought I enjoyed her commentary and like her as a guiding force. Even though it was weird, it was still pretty interesting. And the fact that when he walked through those doors and you see the desert, and it's like, and the callback to like there's multiple afterlives, I guess, whatever the fuck, when they had a shout out to like the spiritual plane of like Wakanda, whatever. I'm like, that's awesome. Like
we could see Boss. We could see Boss at some point.
I'm just saying, there's just a lot of that, and them explaining like this is just one type of afterlife or whatever the hell.
So from what I'm hearing, Joel, it's a possibility that the astral plane is different per religion. Right?
Maybe. Yeah.
So each religion has a different astral plane. So like for T'Challa, you see the ambiance of that was purple, right? That's their faith, that's their belief. And then for Moon Knight, it was yellow, right? So I kind of feel like any other time we see it, it might be color. Because look, the MCU is very color coordinated with fucking everything. So I'm like, it is very fair to believe that the astral plane could be separated by a color structure that represents each identity for whatever they're going for. So I'm with you, Joel. I really love seeing that. And she did mention, the astral plane, and I got a little giddy. I'm like, okay,
That was
love
cool.
whenever you connect things like
Yeah.
that. I love it.
I love that. Also, this guy we saw, Layla's dad, like in the flashback, one of him.
Yep.
And what was on his neck? It was a scarf with a red scarf. It was a red scarf with a scarf like that. I'm like,
yep.
He just keeps pushing in that direction. So I mean, they're never going to explain everything, but in the next episode. But whatever they explain, they're going to explain it. We're definitely going to see more down there. They have to leave shit for later.
Layla will find something that she's like, oh shit. And it won't be like she finds it, gets it, fights with it. No. It'll be more so like she discovers it, and then we'll see it play out later down the road.
That'd be scared, hopefully,
But no, and I want to go to Jayla as I pass it to you. I want to go to the point. By the way, Blake, Mr. E said he loves your shirt. He fucking loves that shirt.
Thank you. I got this.
This is a great shirt.
I love it. Look at that.
That is dope as hell. That is dope.
Yeah.
Where'd you get it?
Etsy. I'm gonna put the link to that shirt in the description for anyone that wants. You can get it in any color.
Perfect.
It's fantastic.
Cool.
Nice.
Perfect. So I did want to touch on. They're not paying us though. But
no, I'm not getting a cent.
I do want to bring this up before I pass this to you, Jayla, because I really appreciated the concept of this. So when you brought up Jake, right? So me knowing mental health as well as I do, dissociative identity disorder. One of the things you learn about that in multiple personalities is when you have more than one, you have a safe space, you have a protector, and then you have a default, right? So with Mark, you look at that and you're like, if he created Steven because he needed a safe space to get out of his own head, there's a very good chance he created a figure to protect him from going back into that space. That's where Jake comes in. So that's why I'm like, we'll definitely be getting Jake. And as far as this series, we know he obviously exists in the comics, but them going deeper into DID, that is one of the biggest things, is that it's usually a safe space, a protector, and then just your default. So I'm like, it'll be really interesting now that we see what happened to Steven and his safe space is gone, if he just defaults to his protector. And that's where Jake comes out. And that's where we get the Moon Knight that is just like, I want blood all over me. I want to bathe in that shit. But Jayla, I want to pass it to you. What were your thoughts on episode 5?
Oscar Isaac is just a joy to watch. Him walking down the street when breaking down and then switching into Steven immediately was just amazing acting. I loved the deeper dive into the character, and I love seeing more Oscar Isaac do his thing. He is killing it, absolutely killing it. Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. Classic Jayla. What was I gonna say? No, it was a great episode. I really did think it was Jake in the beginning. Just the demeanor was different. His accent was a bit different. Everything felt very off, very, very different to me. Because I rewatched it after someone pointed it out, and I was like, oh yeah, no, I totally see it. It really lines up. This might be my favorite episode so far. With Moon Knight, he's such a complex character. There's a lot going on with him, and I'm glad they're taking the time to really dive into all of it. I'm excited. I forgot what I was gonna say. It'll come back to me later. But
time out. When it comes back, stop us immediately wherever we are, so that you can say it, so you don't forget it again.
I was going, I really want to talk about that, but it'll come back.
AJ, are you still on here, AJ?
I'm alive.
Okay, all right. Because I'm like, you disappeared, so I'm like, am I passing it to you, or are you gone? But what were your thoughts, AJ, on episode 5 of Moon Knight?
Yeah, I loved it as well. I talked about this a little bit on Twitter, is that the one thing that I love about Marvel right now is that they are dwelling into trauma a lot more now. And I love how it's all completely different per character, where you get something like Wanda, who creates her children because of the trauma. You get Thor that becomes lazy because of his trauma. There's all different types of ways you cope with trauma and stuff like that, which I really do like, and how they're doing it with Moon Knight as well. So that's one aspect that I do enjoy with this show. Also, I just like how
You disappear again?
I don't know why it keeps doing that.
I don't either.
I don't know why it keeps doing that. Anyway, I just like how the show just keeps us on our toes, just like WandaVision. But I feel like with Moon Knight, it does it a little bit differently, where we're actually still like excited, unlike Moon Knight, where people are just getting a little aggravated with the twist. But in that show, where Moon Knight, you're still excited for it, and it keeps you on your toes. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it.
I remember now, by the way.
Go ahead, Jayla. Go ahead. Go right into it. Right into
so
it.
what I was gonna say was I really appreciated we see Mark kind of like grow up a bit. You know, not to be harsh, but he finally kind of had the moment I was waiting for him to have, where he's not afraid to take action. He realizes that he can take action. I also think that a lot of the questions that are left to be answered aren't going to be big problems to be answered in the next episode. I think they're going to be really just, you know, this is the answer, this is what we're doing, boom, next one. And I don't think it's gonna be rushed. I just think they're going to keep it simple because, you know, we already know what's going on. We have a pretty good idea of what's happening. And, you know, they don't have, like for Khonshu in particular, they don't have to make breaking him out a major thing. They could have it, there's tons of ways they can do it and make it pretty simple to move on to the next thing. But yeah, that was what I was gonna say. I was gonna mention how appreciative was to see Steven have his moment, and I wonder how he's going to come back and how that's going to go, because I mean obviously he's going to come back, but yeah.
Right. And as I pass it to you, Blake, to your point, Jayla, of you saying recovering Khonshu doesn't have to be a big thing, I can actually visualize exactly how they'll probably play it out. Remember when they did the meeting of the gods, the one god that was very friendly to Mark?
I was just about to say that.
She can very easily just go, like, once she sees what Arthur is doing, grab it and realize, shit, we need Khonshu and Moon Knight. Like, we need help. So she very easily could grab it, whether it's meet up with Layla, we get a whole she-venom for a little bit till Mark gets back, or she just brings it straight to Mark. There's so many ways that they could do it. That's not this big whole thing of Mark making his way back and then talking to Khonshu. Like, it doesn't have to be this whole grandiose thing. It could be very simple as she's like, yeah, Arthur has killed a few of us. I'm one of the only ones still alive. Let me go ahead and get Khonshu, see if maybe he can help me out so I don't die. So I'm like, there's very plausible ways this could happen. But Blake, I pass it to you. Your thoughts on that, and then your thoughts on episode 5.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it doesn't have to be such an event bringing Khonshu back, and I could even see him coming back with Steven. Like, we're familiar with the Lemire run, and that's not a big deal at all when his alters eventually do come back to help him when he needs it. It's not some Portals moment like Endgame, like it has to be built up. They're just like, we're always with you. Like, we got you. He could roll up with them, but since he is encased in that little mini statue, I feel like it's just going to be a simple, like, oh, we need Khonshu. Here he is. Like, it can just be less than 10 seconds. Like, he's back. Because it's not like they have to go through trials to get him. Someone locked his cell and threw away the key. They can find that key and let him out. So
exactly.
Yeah. Regarding this episode, I went through a character arc with how I felt about this episode. And I'm going to start off by saying I loved it. It was probably the best written episode of this show. Maybe this one and episode 1, I think, are the most well written. This episode really taught me a lesson when it came to expectations. Like, there's one thing into like, what are you looking forward to? What would you like to see from this show? And it's another thing to be like, realistically, what is this show really even intended to be? Right. And I went in thinking it was going to be this action-packed episode. Like, Mr. Knight was going to be back, Moon Knight would be back, like everything was going to come back in this episode. And they were like, no, we're going to take a deep dive into Mark's psyche, what caused his DID, everything, like his origin, which I actually really wanted to see anyway, so I was happy there. But yeah, I got my hopes up very high when it came to action and spectacle.
I'll say this really quick, Blake. That's because remember, that was one of Oscar Isaac's biggest things. Was that if we were going to dive into DID, I want to really dive into it. I want to really dive into the mindset of this character. And we're seeing that a lot with some of these actors. Look, it's what what's his name that's playing Arthur said when he came to the role.
Yeah,
it was right. He loved the story. He wanted to help develop that story, tell that story. So for a lot of these actors, the action part, some of the times they don't even get to do it. There's stunt doubles that do that shit. So for them, their pride is in the storytelling. So you're always going to see that sometimes get a lot of the love because that's why they signed on for it. That's their craft. They want to be able to stretch their legs with that. So that's why I kind of feel as though, and he's a fan of the comics. He very much is. And it's not one of those actors that says it and it's like, all right, well, who's blah, blah, blah. Oh, I didn't get that far.
Yeah, no,
I believe Oscar really loves this fucking character.
Yeah, this episode was a total reminder that this is a character study, that Oscar Isaac signed on to explore this character's mind, not the blockbuster that is Marvel.
I will also argue Moon Knight as a comic series within any run of it, it's not really action based. It's more story driven and character driven within the lore of Moon Knight, more so than action. Even though when the action hits, it hits strong within the comics, and I like how it.
The reason I brought that up was for you, Trevon. The reason why I brought that up was to say he's a fan of the character, right? So as much as you love action, trust me, the Moon Knight comics was nothing but fucking action. So when he became an executive producer, signed on to be this character, I guarantee you the first thing he said is, how much ass do I get to kick in this show? And they were like, it's sporadic, but that finale, you might be kicking a lot of ass. And he's like, all right, I can deal with that. I get to stretch my acting legs and fuck some shit up. Where can I sign? You know what I'm saying? And I felt like a hypocrite.
I felt like a hypocrite because so many people that have problems with the Batman, it came down to their expectations. They were thinking back to the Dark Knight trilogy, to even Marvel movies like this. That wasn't a very action-packed movie. That was more of a character-driven detective story. Yeah. And I sat back like, yeah, that's what it was always going to be. So finishing this episode, I was like, wow, I did that to myself. So I held off on the thoughts. And this morning I rewatched it with Sabrina and I was like, phenomenal episode.
Can I like tell everybody how it was last night?
I was very underwhelmed. Like those credits rolled.
He was really upset last night, and I felt so bad. I was like, no, because I really enjoyed it, and like
I was very scared because I'm like, they have so much to wrap up in this finale, and now like even hearing you guys say like it doesn't have to be such a spectacle to get Khonshu out or bring.
Well, that's what I kind of kept saying to you last night, and then like I woke up this morning and like I think. Because you're scrolling through the timeline a lot, like you're like probably hearing other people's thoughts, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, that's true.
That's when I
because he did like a complete like 180 when I woke up. I was like, oh my god. I was like, he went through when I was sleeping.
Well, to be fair to Blake, I think all of us had that moment at least 3 or 4 times while watching a specific movie.
I realized I was not alone. Especially my biggest argument is when you only give us 6 episodes.
Yeah.
We like I want to see Moon Knight. Like I don't think it's a big dig at the show to be like 2 episodes in a row. I don't see Moon Knight in action.
Not at all. That's why I told Trevon I have no argument on his point. Go ahead, Didge.
I am iffy on that. I do think that at least we should have saw him a little bit more in one of the 2 episodes. But I think like you guys have already said so many times, it doesn't have to be a spectacle. But I do have a question. Do they just gotta break do they gotta break the totem? Is that how he's gonna get out? I just don't know. How are they gonna do that?
To be fair, that's usually how genies get out. So I don't think it works like that.
Like, how are they
I think you have to because remember they kind of like almost essentially made him into that. It was a spell that they conjured that forced him into that. It wasn't like they took a bottle, trapped him in it. So it's like to break it, I assume would essentially kill him. So I kind of believe there's something to reverse it.
Well, I was just thinking, if we're thinking like it doesn't have to be a spectacle, and I do agree with that. I don't think you need anything crazy to be like, oh, we're going on this one last mission to get Khonshu back. It's like that's the easiest way to do it. Is she notices everything going wrong.
I mean, it
could. All right, tips it over.
It could. I do believe that it's reserved for genies, but look, in case of emergency, right? Like instead of breaking the glass, you just break the totem.
Right.
Hey, you know. But I did want to say to Mr. E, who had a really good question, because sometimes the way we hype the character up, Blake speaking more so me and you, it kind of makes it seem like that. But to answer your question, Mr. E, no, Jake is not like the Hulk to Mark's Bruce. It's just looking as though no. To be fair, Joel, to what he's asking,
I think in this one, that's what they're kind of like alluding.
Look like it is essentially it is his. I have to release the beast, and Jake just so happens to be that said beast. But it's not like a transformation in that essence of like, all right, the only way I can get out of this fight is I need Jake. Like, no. Because we know
like,
Banner
well, to answer your argument though about how everyone kept saying too with it made it seem like Steven was the main character and not Mark. Because like we started with Steven. And like he even said he's like, I thought it was like me, I was the original, and like he wasn't. And it's really just like everything's about Mark. So it's like I think it's to kind of get people speculating, but then like once it like is all explained, that's when, you know, it makes more sense. But it's just like it's kind of just to kind of get people talking, I think. To like you know what I mean? Like so it's like the same thing with like why they did certain stuff to kind of explain to audiences and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean like I said, just he's not reliant on Jake. Because Bruce needs the Hulk to win any fight. Mark essentially could just do it himself. They just took this character to where he just doesn't want to do it anymore. He doesn't want to kill people anymore. He doesn't want to be that version of himself anymore.
See, I think
Jake just comes through.
I think Jake is more of a persona that helps like balance off Mark and Steven a little bit. Just like you always seen in the show so far, is when they're battling each other to fight to who's possessing one, whoever possesses who. That's when Jake comes out more so than anybody else. It's more. I feel like it's more of a decision type of thing, because sometimes they can't make the decision of who's controlling who, and then that's when Jake.
Well, what I'm saying is, I do believe that Mark unknowingly created Jake, and he's been able to keep it at bay. So I think he's forgotten that there is a third personality. So I think when it kind of seems like all is lost, he's down on himself, Jake kind of just bursts through and goes, take a nap. I got it from here. Go to sleep. I got it. Let me handle it all. But as you see, Mark even said in like episode 2 or 3, he told Khonshu, like, I had control of it. Something happened and it kind of jumbled everything, but I had Steven taken care of, right? So, I mean, and look, Jayla, I know you said it before, we've alluded to it. Somebody asked that very beautiful woman out in episode 1, and it clearly wasn't Steven. Seems that it clearly wasn't Mark.
Yeah,
because,
I didn't even think about that.
Could have been Jake. Jake could have been like, you know what? The only thing that quenches my bloodthirst is a good date.
I forgot all about her getting axed out.
That's one way of putting it.
I thought it was best to put it as mildly.
That's smart. Keep it PG.
Right. Sith Morrison says, I saw Blake's tweet about how there was little to no action, and that really helped subvert my expectations. Look, if we've learned anything, Kevin Feige very much scours the internet and goes, oh, okay, that's what you want. Oh, that's what you think I'm about to do. Hey, director, writer, come here. Don't do that. Don't do anything. None of it. Flip it. Flip that shit. So I very much believe it's best if we stop putting our expectations out there, because Kevin sees that shit, and I swear to God, he goes,
I completely agree.
All right. Okay. All right. I hear y'all. So yeah, so I've enjoyed what they've done with it. I feel as though they're telling a massive story that's important for so many different reasons. I just hope that when we get to this finale, that they don't quote unquote cure his DID, right? Because then you then put out a false narrative of what that is. So Steven being gone is just metaphorical, right? He's not actually gone.
Right.
That's what I'm referring to when
I think they're gonna wrap it up how they did in the comic, which isn't what you said, but it could be this story's version of like they're balanced. Like he has this under control. He won't be cured. He just has a handle on things as he once did before.
Right.
I also appreciate.
Oh, go ahead, Jayla.
I also appreciate that they're going with the route of him having it as a child rather than it being a result from Khonshu. I think that was a really smart move.
I was worried they were going to do that too.
Yeah, because what you don't want to do is it's a mental health thing. So you don't want people thinking it's attached to like superhero abilities. Like, no, that's not how that works. That's an actual mental illness that people suffer from. So you don't want to make light of it. You don't want to make it a spectacle. You don't want to make it seem like an ability. You want to address it for what it actually is. And they've been doing a great job with it.
And, I also appreciate that it's just kind of like, I don't know how to explain this, but it's not like, it's just, he's a character that has it. It's not like all about, like, I don't know how to explain it. Do you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
You see what I'm trying to say here? Yeah. I appreciate that as well.
Yeah. That it's not who he is. It's not his identity.
Yes.
It's just what he has to overcome.
His
like
disorder isn't on full display. It's just that is always going to be a part of it.
It's just a natural part of the story.
Right.
Too.
It's also just leaning into the realism of it. That millions of people suffer from this every day, and they go about life, as best as they can. So you don't want to kind of make it into like this whole other thing. You want to kind of make it to where he's a functioning part of society, but this is just something he has to deal with. You know what I'm saying? So that's what the comic books have always treated it as. That's what it actually is. And I'm glad that this show is heightening that and showcasing how important that this is. And look, I love seeing him as a kid when like he kind of like did the whole thing where he kind of was going into Steven. I love that because I'm like, he did that really fucking well. Like I was just like, okay, kid, all right.
I know.
Yeah, this kid is fucking awesome.
They travel back and talk about Oscar Isaac as a child for the show.
Yeah.
Just yoinked him for a second.
No, so I mean, I loved it. And I think one of my favorite parts, like I said, outside of just seeing the iconic shot of Mark with the broken nose, with the bloody bandage, was just like, but I love more the freak out scene, putting context to the freak out scene. Where you saw him just slapping his head.
It's a dark episode.
It's very dark, but I love that scene because it is one of those things to where, when you're going through it, the whole purpose of creating Steven is to never have to go through it, right? Mm-hmm. So it's essentially Mark feeling everything all at once. Stuff that he shoved down since he was a kid is now all just attacking him all at once. And that was the reaction of
Not to mention
to where
Steven
he's just going
said
crazy.
His trigger words, if you will,
right.
that it would be all your fault.
100%.
Like that was the final straw after going through everything he suppressed his entire life, hearing those words that, kill him pretty much his entire life.
Right.
That's inspiring.
And as I pass it to you, Sabrina, the scene that really affected me the most was when Steven saw the little boy and he didn't even recognize him, and he got scared thinking that Mark has killed children. And Mark just, he desperately wanted Steven to understand that that's just not who he is, right? But he couldn't do that because it would be at the expense of reliving things he has tried to keep at bay for forever.
No, don't make me cry again. Don't make me cry again.
No, I really love that because it does dig in deeper to what trauma truly does and how people deal with it. And some people just bury that shit. You know what I'm saying? So to dig it back up, you're gonna get responses like that because you don't know how to properly deal with it.
That
But Sabrina, what were your thoughts?
Oh my god. It was a roller coaster of emotions, but like in the best way possible. Like this is, to me, I think this is one of the best episodes so far. I loved episode 1. I would say 1, 3, and 5 so far are my favorites. But like it was definitely up there because it didn't have to just show Moon Knight to be good, you know, like the character, like going to that deep dive into that character's like psyche and everything. It's just always like hits, and like that hit so hard that like, ooh, that broke me. That entire episode broke me. Like, but I think not even like there's certain stuff that I didn't know about like Mark's backstory that I like kept asking Blake while we were watching it. But like they really like did not shy away from like any of that. Like any of like it was like hella dark, but it was like realistic too. Cause like I asked him how did he really originally like in the comics made up Steven, and like knowing the reason, this is so much better. Cause like this is like more like not only more realistic, but just like it's like, whoa, like that's like that makes sense. And like I don't know, I don't think we see that a lot. That, you know,
and
like
I know the reason they did that is because I think the director said while going into DID, because even he admitted he knows nothing about that disorder, which is why they got the consultants, and
that's very common.
They said it's abuse from childhood, so it makes sense.
Yeah, so like that makes more sense because like that's a scene that's like they hit the nail on the head with that. Like, oh my god, oh my goodness, and I think. I just like there's so much I could say because like even watching it, like I was like I don't know if I want to go through that emotional roller coaster again before me and Blake rewatched it, but I'm just always so blown away with how incredible Oscar is. Like just like that one scene when he just fell to his knees and like that's when like him and Steven's world like fully collided. Like wow, that was incredible. That
I mean.
Like, he just gets like I knew he could act, but like I think the thing is like with comic book performances, like people kind of like overlook that because it's a comic book project. But like he's sitting here like playing 2 different characters every week, but like it just keeps getting better and better.
Also, to be fair, a lot of superhero projects don't open it up enough to be able to garnish a performance like this, because it's just not it's not required to tell that story, right? Like
that's how, like, you know, but that's why I'm like, with this and the Batman, like, I'm so glad we're finally seeing more of that. Like, seeing that.
I still say, oh, right, of course.
Absolutely.
I still to this day believe if they went that route, and I get why they did. So that's not what I'm saying. But if they opened the door for Robert Downey Jr. to go into Tony Stark's alcohol addiction, we would have seen a magical performance of Robert Downey Jr.
Oh man!
I get why they didn't. No problem. Not arguing that.
I wanted to see that. I think we should have.
If they opened the door more, we would have gotten a powerful performance.
They really should have. I remember a couple years ago, my friend did like a project. I think it was like a psych project or something on like characters, and she like wanted to do like a bunch of like comic book characters, and like I think more specifically she did MCU ones, and she did Tony. So I gave her like a whole list, and I was like, yeah, you can go into like a deep dive with just these alone, because like they really like.
To be fair, I get why they didn't, because that wasn't far off from the man's rehabilitation of reinventing himself. So you don't want to put the temptations out.
I think by that time he had been sober for 5 years.
Right.
Yeah, but you never know.
Want to do stuff like that.
No, you don't.
Add to Sabrina's point, the Steven realizing that his mom was dead was
powerful.
That's rough.
Incredible performance.
Powerful.
Yeah, it's just like it's confronting your childhood trauma. Like, but the thing is like Mark, like I think what kind of got me was even when he found that out, like Mark was saying was like you got to live in this like this life of like knowing that your mom loved you and everything, and like I had like this fantasy, and he protected him while like he used him as like to escape when that was happening, but like Steven, that's why Steven's so innocent, because he didn't know what was happening when it was happening. So like they protected each other, and like That breaks me. That breaks me so hard.
What I actually got from that scene was, that Steven has always had a feeling that his mother wasn't real.
Yeah.
I mean, not real, that she wasn't alive. But it was one of those things to where he wasn't willing to deal with the reality
Trauma.
of the idea that she wasn't alive. Because remember, and here's how you can tell. No. Remember, there was never a person on the other end who was leaving messages.
Yeah.
So the way that you can tell that was always something he had always known deep down is how quickly he switched.
You could see how it started to break. Like
how he immediately went, she's not alive, is she? Like he immediately
didn't want them to call because he knew.
He knew deep down because all he was doing was leaving messages, right? So he
but like that probably, but like I saw it more of like,
consciousness.
And he was defensive as hell when
100%.
anyone would bring that up. He
Right.
was like,
That's
no,
true.
I don't even want to hear that. Don't say that. I'm gonna lose my shit.
Yeah, don't bother her. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
That's part of it though. It's part of it that when you bury it, you bury the memories that come with it. You create you create alternate memories, right? So in creating alternate memories, you don't get rid of the concept of what's reality. You just refuse to acknowledge it. So that's why I said in that moment you saw him start to realize what everything was. Everything is a lie. His mom is dead. He's not the host. Everything just came crumbling down. And that's why I said it was always something in the back of his head that he knew, but he wasn't ready to confront it. And that's why it's so important to tell these stories, because that's not easy. That's not easy at all.
Especially how Ethan Hawke's, this version of Arthur Harrow, which I love, by the way. I love him being the psychiatrist, but the way he talks to Steven in that moment when he said, like, oh, well, let's just call her. Like, his calming demeanor, even when Steven's freaking out, and he's like, here, just take the phone. And he already knows when he takes it.
Yep.
It's just that kind of like, hey, you're in a good area here. Just like trust yourself. Or like he said in episode 4, wake up.
So dark.
It is
Dark as shit.
It really is. It really, really, really is. And that's what I like though. That's what I like, that they're not afraid to go there, because you look at it and you're like, these are stories that should be told, right? You shouldn't hide. You shouldn't shy away from it. They're important because there are kids that are dealing with it, and they need to know that they're no different than anyone else, right? So you got to start to
your favorite superheroes go through that. Just means
100%, 100%. They're not even perfect, and that's what we need to put out there. But go ahead, AJ.
This is why I always found confusing that people keep saying that the MCU isn't nuanced enough for Oscar type filmmaking and stuff like that. It's so weird because we get these type of stories and these type of arcs through these characters. We've been having these type of conversations. Fair enough, it's less when we first started, and it just started growing over time because we knew that people would be a little more uncomfortable with it earlier on, till now where more people are starting to get more comfortable with telling these darker stories of trauma and the psychological effects of the human mind and all of that. And I also love that because even back when Stanley was working with Marvel Comics and stuff like that, he always believed that these heroes are still us, basically. They're still human, still like that, even though we still have Thor was a god, but he still has human stories within those characters, which I really do enjoy. So these stories with the MCU are powerful, and it invokes emotion with a lot of people. So it's just weird to me that people don't think it.
Yeah, I mean, because to a lot of people, AJ, comic books are just like, all right, Superman flies around, Batman throws a batarang, like Doctor Strange opens portals. But they only believe that because a lot of the cartoons sometimes don't go that deep, right? Like, I believe Batman the Animated Series, if you grew up on that, that was not a happy story beginning to end, all the way to the end. That story got deep as shit. Right,
but
I can't.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, AJ. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But even in Justice League, there was this scene with not Justice League live action, but the animated series.
No, I know what you meant. Batman on the swings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
something that dives deep into it. Also, Static Shock also dives into
Static Shock
racism.
went into it a lot.
Yes,
100%.
So
It's always been there, but if you've ever read the comics, they always dig deeper into the mind of all of these characters. Because again, trauma is important. Trauma is usually what creates these superheroes. So it's important to go down and dig deep into the drama of it.
And if we're keeping it just fully 100, it also creates a lot of these villains too.
Yeah.
That same trauma, they just make the wrong decision.
Right. And shout out to Sith Morrison, because a lot of people on Twitter have been saying this. Sith Morrison says, I think I actually have a deeper appreciation for the previous episodes now that we've gotten more of the story.
yeah.
And that's what's important. Go ahead, Didge.
I was gonna say, and to that point, like remember, I think it was episode 1 or 2 when he missed the date. He has the exact same clothes on that he was wearing when he was outside of his mom's funeral. That's literally the exact same clothes.
Yeah,
it was probably that day.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and you know what that says? You know what that says? If you would ask a therapist, they would tell you what that says is the only woman he's ever been able to have a connection with is Layla. So that was probably self-sabotage, right? To where he could have had something new, he could have had something nice, but he found a way to sabotage it, and he used Khonshu as an excuse, right? Like, oh, I gotta go do Khonshu's bidding. I can't even call her and reschedule it. Like, it's just not gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
I just flaked. You know what I'm saying? So I really did appreciate that a lot. And I want to apologize to Blake, because Blake said, I believe they'll dive into his Jewish background. And what was the first thing I said, Blake? Oh, I don't think they'll go there. They didn't fully go there, but we know he is Jewish. That's not to be questioned whatsoever.
Shit.
Jesus Christ.
Yes.
But you were right. I thought that would be something that maybe they wouldn't do. But they did it. They didn't dive deep like we know the comics do with his Jewish background, but they did make sure to highlight that he is indeed Jewish, which I appreciate. I definitely appreciated that. So we all can agree that for different reasons we like this series, right? And for different reasons we might have expected more from certain aspects of the show. Trevon, you're gonna sit here and tell me you've liked nothing of this show at all.
Why are you asking him?
Because he gave me a look when I said that.
I'm just looking forward to this next week. That's where I'm at right now.
Anyway, speaking of that, I did want to showcase for you guys as a gift for joining this episode of MCR to get us ready for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Me and Dakota have been working hard on not only the video edit, but the actual edit for GVN and Doctor Strange. So this is only a tease of what we will be unveiling next week. But this is all I can showcase you guys for what we're doing for the edit of of Multiverse of Madness. This is all I can show.
That's it?
This is all I can show. But I can tell you, Dakota put his foot all up, down, and sideways with this whole edit in the video edit. I can't wait to showcase it to you guys. Please make sure you're following us on Instagram and Twitter. We will slowly unveil it next week, leading up to the release date for Doctor Strange 2. In the video edit that he did, wait till you guys see that shit. That is, but it's bananas. I can't wait to showcase that. No one can judge me
for my behavior next week. I'm going to be a completely different person for like a while. You guys don't understand how much I love. Oh God.
Look, I am glad you have this, Jayla, because I will never apologize for the pure annoying pain in the ass I will be come May 27th. When that motherfucker Obi-Wan Kenobi show comes out, I can't
wait.
I cannot wait.
I am already a menace. Like, I'm already a menace. Oh my God.
I'm going to tell you this right now. You guys know I hate the term, but I will gatekeep for that motherfucking show. So if there is if there is any negativity that comes my way for that Kenobi series, I'm throwing punches.
I'll do you one better. I will do you one better. If there's any negative negative energy towards Hayden, we're gonna have an issue.
100%. 100%.
I'm gatekeeping him from everybody. Stop it. Leave my boy alone.
Is my spirit animal. I will take no disrespect.
Well,
to Hayden.
I just want Juwaan.
If that's the case, Trayvon, if you feel as though that's a possibility, I appreciate that.
That's fine.
I thought about doing that for this to take the.
I appreciate it. No, there's no need to do it for this because, like I said, I don't disagree with you. It just didn't affect me the way that it did you. But for Kenobi, there will be nothing I accept negative, Trayvon. Nothing. Short of you saying, damn, Juwaan, it's only 60 minutes. Why couldn't it be 90? That is the only criticism I will allow for that show.
60 minutes. You're being generous.
I'm being very generous. Very generous. It'll only be like 45 minutes. But if they do
38. They'll give you like 38.
Woo! All right, Ryan, you joined in just in enough time. So I'll kick it to you. I'll kick it to you to end us for the night. But what were your thoughts on episode 5 of Moon Knight?
It's really trippy. It's really weird. I love seeing all of the stuff with the Egyptian afterlife. Like I grew up like loving Roman mythology, Egyptian mythology, and Greek mythology. So just seeing like them going through the plains and everything like that, it was just really cool to see. I kind of thought, and I don't know if it's been brought up, but I think we're not going to get Jake Lockley. Like, I don't think he's coming.
Told you, he's the Mephisto of the series.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's a combination of what they're trying to do with like softening up Steven's character, like making him that British. I don't know what that's all supposed to be, but it might just be a duality thing that we get this season, and maybe he splits off in something down the road.
Well, we were saying that it seems to be a common thing that each personality has a suit. So 3 personalities, 3 suits. And we've yet to see the Moon Knight that we know, the bloodthirsty Moon Knight. So we believe that possibly could
the
be
Mr.
Jake.
Knight we know is on the way. That was just teased with
oh god,
Steven and that bat thing,
bat,
whatever. So
I know, that's
finally
what
get to
thinking.
use those little sticks that he teased us.
You know what I could see? I could see it ending with Mark kind of giving Steven the freedom, and maybe Steven and Layla doing adventures or whatever together. And I could see Layla training him on how to fight. So the next time we see Steven interact, he's not running, he's not hiding. He's not willing to go as far as maybe Mark or Jake, but he definitely can whoop your ass.
I don't know. At the end,
like he could defend himself.
He seemed like
he was doing what he had to do.
He was wailing on.
That was more so of like desperation. I don't think that was a personality shift. I think that was just desperation. Oh, it's in everybody. That's in everybody.
I did really like that part. I forgot to touch on that. When usually you don't like to see when somebody who really can't fight out of nowhere, they all of a sudden are so great in a fight. But
right.
he brought a really good point. He's like, he's me. So if he can do it, I can do it.
He can do
right.
it.
That was something I did really like.
Awesome.
And even when he went after them, his fighting wasn't the cleanest. So he was still like, all right, I'm not fully.
I can do it, but it's
right, yeah, right. Like I could stop you a little bit, but not like he could do, obviously. Yeah. But that's why I said I would love for Layla to just train him. You know what I'm saying? Train him in the basics so he can defend him. Yes. I want that desperately. I really do. So like the next time we see Steven again, it's still the duality of he's not willing to go as far as maybe the other personalities, and that's still the difference. But he can defend himself. It's not, oh, I got to go to Mark now. He's like, all right, I think I could handle this. I know a little something. And it also would be interesting to see him get really confident and then get his ass beat. So it's like, it still could be that goofiness of Steven. So I'm like, they'll still make it to where it's very playful, but he's not as weak, as he was made to be. But go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, I was just going to ask real quick, is this the penultimate episode and then next week is the finale, or we got another one?
Next week's
next week's the finale.
That's what I thought. Okay, so I just want to put it to you guys. What do we think is reality from what we're seeing? Because we saw kind of the hospital hippo room, which is supposed to be kind of the afterlife. We saw the I guess that psychology
The
room, whatever you want to call it.
Psychiatric hospital.
Yeah, psychiatric hospital where it's just him and his doctor. And then we also have, getting shot by the bullet, that reality. What is real? Do we have
I'll say this. To know Moon Knight is to know that all of it to him is real.
Okay.
I think my take personally is this is the aftermath of him being in like a limbo, and the scenes with the psychologist was his heart being balanced. The discussion.
You know what, Jayla? Absolutely. And you want to know why I'm clapping to you? Because they made it clear that it is real. You want to know how? The astral plane. If we believe what T'Challa went through was real, why would we believe that this isn't? Right? So that's why I said to Moon Knight, there is truth in everything he experiences. To him, everything I'm seeing is real. Now, where the truth lies, we always have to find that out, right? But to him, everything I just fucking said to you guys, I believe I saw that shit. I saw all of it. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying for Moon Knight, it's all real. But the getting shot and then the astral plane, that's 100% real.
Yeah, and then how does he come back? Does she help activate the suit and then it digs the bullet out, or is she gonna like go in there and save him? Like, I wonder what the next thing is that brings him out of that dark place that he's in.
Whoever gives him that suit back will heal him, and that's how that will get the bullet will get dealt with. In becoming Moon Knight and joining up with Khonshu again, I believe Khonshu could pull him out of it, someone else will pull him out of it. But we were saying before that whole sequence doesn't have to be a big to do. It could be a very quick process that a lot of it's just said through dialogue, like, oh shit, how did you get here, blah 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 blah. Like, we don't have to see it literally play out. It's the dialogue
they don't have to hold our hand,
right? Yeah, you don't have to hold our hand, just get me there, that's it. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, she could literally just mouth to mouth him and then water comes out and then we're back to normal. But I mean, I just want to see if it's something grandiose or if it's something kind of simple. But either way, the finale is going to just have me riveted from beginning to end. I can just tell.
Well, there's not much they could do that could be more grandiose than seeing how he first became Moon Knight. That shit was beautiful.
Yeah. I said it on Twitter, and for anyone that didn't see it, I think his origin in that episode was my favorite moment in the MCU. At the very least, the MCU. I need to see it a couple more times before I can say just comic book project of all time, because that was ripped from the comics.
I know.
Like, that was 100%
beat for beat origin.
It was so good.
I will say though, episodically, this episode is my favorite episode to date of anything outside of Star Wars. Anything outside of Star Wars, it is my favorite episode of name something. It's my favorite episode. Because it completely takes the norm and flips it, right? So like all the things we're used to, like, oh, they're not going to do that, they're not going to touch on that. They were just like, no, we're going to touch everything. So I appreciate it, and I really did enjoy it a lot. But yeah, this finale, I would suggest to everybody, take Blake's new mantra of expect nothing, accept everything.
Yeah. I like that.
Expect nothing.
I don't know if I'd go that far. Rework that. Be careful what you expect, I guess.
Yes,
is what I would say.
Oh, what did MJ say in No Way Home?
Oh yeah.
Oh shit, yeah.
Expect nothing and you won't be disappointed, or expect disappointment and you'll never be disappointed.
Yeah.
That
he was very down. Like, I love how
too much down for me.
Like, Peter's
too negative.
response to that was just like, all right, MJ, damn, okay.
Yeah, I don't like that.
like that's a lot. You're putting a lot of pressure on me right now. Like, I always say when people say stuff like that, you have no idea the pressure you put on the person you say it to. Because what is my response supposed to be to that? Like, all right, you'll get him next time, champ. I don't know. Like, I'm so uncomfortable. Like, why did you say that?
Another reminder that the director did say for the finale is he believes the audience deserves a big fight sequence, which we know we're going to get. He's going to throw down with Arthur, but he said it's still at the end of the day a story about Mark. So there may be a final fight, but for the majority of that episode, now I still expect it to be a deep dive for him as opposed to like grand finale of the Moon Knight show. So
Right.
keeping that in mind going forward.
I think the whole purpose of him, of the showrunner, is I want by the end of this season, people no longer have questions of who is Mark, who is Moon Knight. I want to answer that. So going forward, I can do all the spectacularly crazy, wild shit you guys want to see because I don't have to push a narrative. You get the narrative, you've seen it, you understand it, you know who he is. So now going forward, I could just do all the wild, crazy, insane shit that you guys want to see. And we've seen that throughout the MCU. They go very story driven. And then from there, they're just like, think of Thor, right? Think of all the story we had to go through with Thor just to get to Infinity War with Bring Me Thanos, right? Or just to get to Ragnarok when he jumps off the thing and just goes full Thor, right? We had to go through a whole fucking story just to get that good shit. And now we're getting nothing but, as AJ would say, great, right? So, you know, we have to kind of take those steps and then we get there and now it's like, let's have some fun. So I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they close it out. It's a big week for Marvel next week. Big ass week. Doctor Strange, finale for Moon Knight. And then unfortunately we got nothing until Miss Marvel comes out in June. So we got a bit of a wait. We do, but I will say this. Miss Marvel is one of the few characters that is worth that goddamn wait. I cannot wait for that fucking show to come out, bro. I cannot wait.
Just be a 5-week wait, I think.
Yeah,
shouldn't be
no,
we'll
not
have
a
a little
massive
Star
one.
Wars in the meantime. It should be all right.
Right?
We'll have some doses of Star Wars right in between. That's going to be
Doctor Strange multiple times. Yep.
There you go.
Doctor Strange multiple times. Doctor Strange multiple times
throughout the course of May, or just throughout the course of this next
until
week?
Miss Marvel
this week.
Oh, okay, all right.
Keep
No
watching.
problem.
Why not?
Hey, if it's good, why not? I've had Batman on.
I'm hoping.
So
You can afford it. Fuck it.
why not? He said if you can afford it, yeah, why not?
A-list is
Shout out
right
to
there.
AMC A-list.
A-list is right there. I'm about to use the hell out of it.
Look, Trevon's like, I'm about to be in there so much. As soon as I walk in, hey Trevon, like they already know me. They know why I'm here. There's no questions to be asked. They know what's going on. But no, I truly appreciate you guys joining me for this episode. This is a very important episode, and I'm glad I got to break it down with people that appreciate and respect, what this episode's narrative was trying to be about the importance of mental health. So I appreciate breaking it down with people that, didn't take it as a joke or didn't try to move past it. We broke it down the best way we could. So I truly appreciate that from you guys. And shout out to Sith Morrison. Last thing he said here was, we don't disrespect Hayden Christensen in this house.
That's
Amen.
right.
Amen.
Perfect note.
Hey,
Ding dong.
goddamn
Absolutely.
men, Sith Morrison. Sith you said who is Hayden Christensen? I slept. Don't do that, Trevon. Don't you do that to me. Don't you? You know exactly who the hell Hayden Christensen is. But anyway, I want to give a shout out to this crew. Also, we broke down all of Sony and DC's portion of CinemaCon yesterday. That live video is up on our page. Go there, check it out. We broke down as much of that as we possibly could. We yelled, we laughed, we yelled a lot more, and then yelled a lot more, and then ended the show. So make sure you check that out. AJ hit me up to this. There's supposed to be a lot of Star Wars news coming. My two surrogate fathers and Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau will be doing a panel soon. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. May 4th is coming, so we will be bringing back May the Pod Be With You. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. We'll be bringing it back. And also shout out to AJ, who revived Star Wars Saturdays. So we will be breaking down Star Wars The Clone Wars between now and when the Kenobi series comes out every Saturday. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Also,
I'm gonna lose it.
I'm with you. Look, I don't know how I'm gonna survive just seeing Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni talk Star Wars. Like, I'm gonna be shaking the whole time they're talking. Like, I can't wait. I cannot wait. And we get news of Bad Batch season 2. So that's what I'm really looking forward to, because that seemed like it was in a bit of a purgatory. Like, it was announced and then it was just like nothing. So I'm glad that May 4th is right around the corner. We'll get answers. We're supposed to be getting an announcement about part 2 of what's his name's game. Why am I blanking?
Oh, Fallen Order.
Yes,
Yeah.
Fallen Order. The sequel to that. A new Star Wars animated series. A whole bunch of shit is supposed to be dropping next week. So we thought, yes, 100%. So we thought it'd be a big Marvel week. We forgot. There'll be some Star Wars lingering.
The Disney panel was
It'll
today.
be lingering. Would you say, Trevon?
I said, yeah, the Disney panel was today, but we didn't get much out of it.
No.
Well, I remember I told you yesterday, Star Wars wasn't going to do that with May 4th being right there. They weren't going to give you anything for Star Wars. They did give you, they talked about it. We won't talk about it here because I know there are people that don't want to hear about this movie till they see it. They did talk about the first 20 minutes of Doctor Strange and what was in it. So there was talk about that, obviously. Stuff about Avatar, the announcement about Avatar, stuff like that. So there were some cool announcements.
Sorry.
I like that he's like, oh, and then he blasts
I did see
out.
Shazam.
No, tomorrow
Shazam
we
moved
have
5
to
days.
Wait, hold
need
on.
to do predictions. We need to
Go
do
ahead,
predictions.
AJ. Prediction of what?
The next 10 years of Marvel. We got
What
to.
the hell?
Next 10
Hell
years.
no.
Yes.
You want
Yes.
what?
You want to do predictions about the next 10
You want to
years of
predict?
Marvel?
I could give
Yes.
you the next 5 years, maybe.
I
10
can't
years, all
even
10
think-
years.
You know what?
Feige's
You know what?
doing it doesn't
Here we
mean
go.
he can do it.
Here we go, AJ. I got you. You ready? This year, obviously, we got what we got. And then the 10th year, we'll get Galactus. There you go.
All right,
There you
I'll
go.
take it.
Theorizing
I'll take
over.
You're
There you go.
boring. You're boring. You're
That's all
boring.
you need. That's all you need. Everything else in between is just it's the icing on the cake. The cake itself is that we're building
Everything in between is the best part. That's what we need to discuss.
Yeah, that's not
Yes,
a lie.
Fantastic Four.
But
Yes.
guess what, AJ? Feige is putting together a team to figure that out, and guess what? They all get paid to do that.
Exactly. But
So
at least
we are logging off.
It's fun. At least it's fun to predict. Come
No,
on.
it's fair.
I was
but,
I'd be
Go ahead,
I'll be down for that.
so we'll plan that out. We'll do it on an episode. We don't need to do it now. Let's
do
let's
it
at
after
least-
Multiverse of Madness.
I was about to say that. Let's
Yeah,
at least do it
yeah.
after
That's better.
that,
That's better.
where we have a better idea on what the future of look. Moon Knight's finale and then Doctor Strange. It'll give us a better look.
Multiverse of Madness.
Yes, AJ. We don't want to predict things and then next
Well,
week it dispels
only
everything
next
we
week.
predicted. Like,
Not like it's a
I'm
long
just kidding.
No.
yeah, you know how frustrating that'll be. Where I'm like, yeah,
No,
Multiverse of
we're
Madness
gonna
gives us
predict
this and
things
that. It
every
doesn't.
week. Every week.
Every week is a new prediction.
Yep.
Year
Exactly.
one,
Next
year
week is the
two,
movie,
year
AJ.
three.
Eventually,
Um,
eventually we'll get something right.
So if
Oh
it's
my God.
No,
announced,
you
it
know
doesn't
what?
count, right?
Time out. If you want to do that, let's not do it weekly. Let's do it yearly. At that point, yes, something of what we say at that point will be true.
No, weekly is better. Weekly is better.
No, yearly. We'll do yearly. But again, thank you guys in the comment section. The hype for Obi-Wan is real. Shout out to Sith Morrison, Lil Wolfie, Mr. E, everybody in the comment section. We had like 20 watchers at one point. So shout out to you guys. 6 likes so far. You guys are awesome. Make sure you're liking, sharing, comment, whether it's now or later on when you rewatch it later. But we're getting out of here, guys. That's all we got for you. Next week will be crazy. Make sure you're paying attention to our Instagram and Twitter as we slowly release our GVN poster for Multiverse of Madness. So make
This is
sure you're
gonna be
staying
good.
tuned for that. Yes, and the video is going to be fucking insane. I got a chance to visualize it with Dakota as he's working on it, and you guys are definitely going to love it. Trayvon, I thought of you for this motion poster. So when you see it,
Yeah,
you're like, okay.
I zoomed. I looked really hard at it. I think I see something in it. I was like,
Yes,
Yeah, so,
I thought
yeah,
of you because I
yeah.
know how much you're looking forward to this.
Yes,
I
see
thought
it.
of you, so I put some Trayvon in there. So when it's revealed, you'll definitely appreciate it.
Yeah.
But I want to thank Joel, Blake, Jayla, Trayvon, Ryan, AJ, Sabrina, and Didge for joining me. Make sure you guys stay tuned this Friday for GVN Talk. This Sunday for GVN Roundtable. We got a new name. So make sure you guys stay tuned for both of these shows. It's much better, right, Joel? Yes. Jayla and Blake were definitely like, hey, you can't just keep calling it that. Call it something better. And I was like, all right, let me think. So we'll be unveiling a new intro video for that. We'll be unveiling a new poster or a new logo for GVN Roundtable also. And AJ, I think it's best if we start Star Wars Saturday next Saturday, like literally when May starts.
That's fine. Yeah.
Oh, wait.
What I was thinking. That's what I was thinking
starts.
anyway. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you guys. And until next week, peace.
Bye, guys.